Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. On this video, I'll be showing how I adjust my coilovers so that my tires will not rub parts of my fender when the suspension is working, have a 50-50 compression and droop, and maintain the ride height that I'd like to be at. My coilovers are BC Racing BR Series coilovers. Before I started to remove things, I took a measurement from the top of the wheel to the fender while the car is at rest. This measurement was 3 3/16. I will use this as a reference when adjusting for ride height. Now the wheel gets removed, followed by the coilover. To remove the lower bolt for the coilover, I'll be using a 19mm wrench. And to remove the top 3 mounting nuts for the coilover, I'll be using a 12mm socket. I'm gonna take the camera down. I'll put it down and remove the coilover without a video. I think most of you guys know how this goes. So here's my rear coilover. It currently has BC Racing coil springs and a Hyperco helper spring. With the ride height that I'm currently running, I use the helper spring to maintain tension on the coil spring when the wheel is at full droop. Next step is to remove the damper adjustment knob, then the top hat, then the dust boot, and finally the coil spring. I'll be using a 14mm to remove the damper knob. And to remove the top hat, we're going to use a 17mm wrench with a number 5 hex key. Now I'll assemble the coilover without the dust boot and coil spring and reinstall along with the wheel. Okay, I have the coilover reinstalled, and before I put the wheel back on, I wanted to show where I have my jack situated for raising and lowering the suspension. And right now it's on the lower control arm. Okay. All right, now that I have the wheel back on, I'll go ahead and raise the wheel up until the top of the coilover damper hits the bump stop. If the wheel starts to rub on the fender before the damper hits the bump stop, the damper is raised up until the wheel no longer rubs on the fender. Okay, so right here, is starting to rub and preventing the wheel from turning. So that means that I need to raise up the coilover damper. So what I'll do now is lower the wheel, remove the wheel, and raise up the coilover damper body. Okay, so what was happening earlier is that when I was raising up the suspension, the damper body was moving up into the bump stop. But before it hit the bump stop, the wheel started rubbing on the fender. We have to raise up the damper body until the wheel doesn't hit the fender. And to do that, you rotate the damper body counterclockwise, and it'll raise up the damper body. Okay, so I've raised up the damper body, and this is going to be a trial and error of, raising up the damper body, putting the wheel on, and jacking up the car. Jacking up the suspension until you don't have any wheel rub. Okay, I got the wheel back on, and I'm going to give it another try. Okay, that's it. The car is starting to, the body of the car is starting to go up. That means the damper body is against the bump stop, and I still have the wheel freely going around inside the fender. So that'll be a good adjustment. So I'll go ahead and take out the wheel, lower the suspension, and tighten the lower locking collar on the coilover. Before lowering the wheel, I'll take a measurement which tells me where the wheel is at when hitting the bump stop. And that measurement shows 1 3/16. I'll also measure where the wheel is at in full droop. And that measurement is 5 7/8. All right, with the coilover out of the car, I'll put the coil spring back and preload it, and then put it back in the car to set the ride height. I'm also switching out the BC Racing coil spring with one from Swift. Okay, I'll go ahead and install this in the car and set the ride height. Okay, now the coilover and wheel are back on the car, and I've loaded the suspension to show the ride height when the car is resting on pavement. I take a measurement of about 5 1/16 from top of the wheel to fender. And if you recall, at the beginning of video, I had taken a measurement of 3 3/16 when car was at rest. So there's a 1 7/8 difference which I have to adjust for by lowering the lower spring seat on the coilover. So here we go, lowering the spring seat by 1 7/8. Okay, so now the collar, the spring collar has been lowered so that I can get back to my original ride height. But as you can see, when at full droop, the spring is going to be loose, and that's where the helper spring will come into play. So I'll go ahead and take off the coilover again and install the helper spring and reset the ride height. Okay, I'll go ahead and put it back in the car. Okay, here's the coilover installed, and the suspension is at full droop, and the coil spring is held in place by the helper spring. And here's the new ride height, which is pretty close to the original. For my compression and droop ratio, based on my measurements, my droop is 2 7/8, while my bump or compression is coming out to 2 inches. It's not exactly what I originally hoped for, but it's close enough for now, and I can always adjust it if I need to. And to do the front, it's pretty much the same procedure, except of course you gotta turn the steering wheel in addition to raising it up and down to get the clearance you need with the fenders and fender liner. Okay, thanks for watching.